I'll call the meeting to order. Can I have a mover for the in-camera motions?
So moved.
Commissioner Deagle-Gammon?
I'll second that.
Commissioner Cuddle seconds that the Halifax Water Board ratify the in-camera motions. The agenda, I have Commissioner Kent with a request to...
Sorry, Madam Chair, you do need a vote on that motion.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. Could I have any questions on the in-camera motions? No. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? Motion is carried. Thank you, Heidi. Commissioner Kent has asked that the URB report be moved up in the agenda. She has a time commitment at 11. Would it be okay if we put the URB report, we just address item 9 after capital approvals? Is that okay?
For me.
Yeah.
First
Yeah.
time.
And I just had a question for Heidi. In the information reports, we have the Halifax Water annual report. Does that require a board motion? No. Okay. Any other requests on the agenda?
Madam Chair,
Go ahead, Commissioner Kazarov.
if we will have time, I would appreciate a quick update on the employees pension plan report that was attached as an information report.
Okay, so we'll move information report 3-I after item 10. Yes.
Thank you.
May I have a motion to approve the agenda as modified?
So moved.
Second.
I think that was Commissioner Kent and seconded by Commissioner Zaharov.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. We have the minutes from the regular meeting held on Thursday, June 23rd. Are there any comments on those minutes? If I could have someone move the approval of those minutes.
I'll move.
Commissioner
Second.
Zaharov, Commissioner Cuddle with the second on the motion that the Halifax Water Board approve the minutes of June 23rd, 2022 regular meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion is carried. I see 2 items of business arising on the minutes, and they've been so noted. So the request for the drinking water in other countries by Commissioner Cuddle will be at the November EHS meeting, and as well the asset management policy is included in this agenda, so it was moved forward. Any other business arising?
Madam Chair, I have one item.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to note for the public record that the annual audited financial statements for Halifax Water, the financial statements for the pension plan, and the corporate balance scorecard results, after the board approved them at the June meeting, were presented at the Halifax Water annual general meeting open to the public on July 14th. And were also submitted to Halifax Regional Council in the annual accountability report that went to council on August 22nd. So that is complete.
Thank you, Kathy. Moving on, item 4.1, operating results at August 31st, 2022 and year-end projections.
That would be me.
Go ahead, Louis.
So I just wanted to provide a quick update as to where we are as of the end of August. So the highlights we always do is our cash position continues to be healthy, which is a very important piece for us. I wanted to give an update on our budget. So our operating budget, our deficit of $10.9 million based on the forecast we have till the end of August. Anticipation is that will be approximately 11.4 million. So that is not unexpected, but we are early in the year and we continue to monitor that situation. One of the issues as we were going through our rate application, we identified to the board, to the URB, that we anticipated that with the pressures with inflation, that our deficit could increase by around $2.5 million. So what we're seeing here is not unexpected. The other area we continue to flag is our consumption by customer class. What we're seeing is the commercial side of the operation, we're seeing consumption increase quite significantly there. We always look at the residential side, and that's becoming more stable relative to the significant changes that we had seen in the past with people working at home. So we continue to monitor that as well. And the other item I wanted to flag related specifically to corporate services, one of the issues we have is the development community is able to pay regional development charges by credit card. We're seeing the fees associated with that continue to increase, and our plan is to make a motion or to investigate moving that directly to the RDC account as an offset to the reserve that's been accumulating. Originally, we did not anticipate the increase would be as much as it was, and there was, I believe, a submission to the URB that we would not be doing that. So we have to go through some formalities to do that, but that's approximately $300,000 that is putting pressure on our operating. And that was my update.
Thank you, Louis. Any questions for Louis on the operating results ending August 31st, 2022? Moving on, item 4.2, the capital expenditures at August 31st and year-end projections.
So again, a quick update on that. Our total budget that we have available for capital is approximately $322 million. Of that, we've spent approximately $79 million, 27 million of which has been spent in the current year. What we've looked at is compared to last year, the amount we're spending each month is going up. The number of projects that are active, so in motion, has also increased significantly from last year. So all positive steps in terms of our ability to spend our capital budget. So that was my update on capital.
Any questions for Louis on the capital expenditures report? Item 4.3, the fall 2022 debenture.
There is a motion on that one in terms of, I don't know if you'd like me to talk to it and then make the motion, or?
Yes, can you talk to it first?
Okay. So what we are looking for approval to refinance approximately $7.7 million of debt. So this is debt that would have been issued 10 years ago. So after we issued debt for in the past over 20 years, at the halfway point, we refinance that debenture again, mostly because the interest rates that we get over the shorter term are lower than we get if we go for a full 20-year term. So we're just at the halfway point of the debentures that were issued 10 years ago. We need approval to issue that new debt. The The main issue for us now is in the spring debenture, we did see an increase in the interest rates we were being charged. We had budgeted a rate of about 2.5%. It was coming in, the exact numbers in the report. You just find that somewhere around, well, just under 4%. So we are seeing an increase in the cost to borrow. And that has resulted in our motion here now has an all-inclusive rate of 6%. Traditionally, that number has been 5% over the last number of years. But the Municipal Finance Corporation, who issues our debt, who we go through to issue our debt, has recommended that we increase that to 6%. That just gives us flexibility in whether or not we need to come back to the board for approval. So we do not anticipate that it will be 6%. If it does come back in when they price it above 6%, we will be coming back to the board for approval.
I have a quick question, Madam Chair.
Let's call for the motion first. Will someone put the motion on the floor?
Sorry, I had a question about the motion, about the item.
Okay, go ahead.
Alternative 1 that was attached in the report. So, Louis, if I understand correctly, if the Halifax Water will choose not to refinance the balloon payment, this will basically save almost $300,000, right? This is because of the lower rates that they on the current credit.
No, we'd be required to pay off the balloon payment of $7.6 million. That would reduce the cash that we have in the bank. But it would mean we're not borrowing, so we don't have that the interest charged on our borrowings.
I see. And the lower cash balance basically places Halifax Water at risk of not having enough funds to pay for the ongoing projects. Is that correct?
We do take that into consideration. We have done cash flow out till the next time we would likely get money. So into April, May of next year, I think it is. Our forecasts say we'd still have about $25 million. If we use $7.5 million, I'm going to do some mental math, we would have $20 million or $18 million in the bank. So we're not necessarily at risk of not having enough money, but it is closer than we'd normally like to be.
If I could add to that answer, another consideration for us is also what we expect to be going on with the interest rate environment. So we are in a period of rising interest rates, and we take into consideration whether it's wise if we used our cash now instead of refinancing this balloon payment. That might mean we are borrowing more in the spring debenture or next fall's debenture when we anticipate the interest rates to be higher.
So it's not exactly a saving of 300,000. It's maybe saving in the short term, but then Halifax Water will end up with a credit at a higher rate, which will be probably more than 300,000. Okay, understood. Thank you. Thanks for clarification.
Okay, call for the motion.
Question?
Can we put the motion on, or do you need the question before the motion?
Oh, sorry, I'll put the motion on the floor.
Okay, go ahead, Commissioner Kent.
Move that Halifax Water approve the refinancing of $7,664,675,000 with a 10-year amortization term and financing over 10 years with an all-inclusive rate not to exceed 6%. Second.
Commissioner Deagle-Gammon is second. Thank you for that. I just had one question, Louis. I don't know if Jake can pull it up. The cash flow projection, where does the $7 million show up on the projection?
So Alicia's on the call as well. She may be able to tell you the exact one.
I'm just trying to pull it up,
Sure.
have it in front of me.
Madam Chair, just from a process point of view, in order to get are we using the chats form to say that we have a question?
That's easier for me.
Okay, great, thank you.
So on there, Alicia, where would the 7 million show?
Under the financing section, if you scroll down, Jake. So the principal repayments on long-term debt, the 7 million is included in there.
And then where would the, so if we repay it and then we take out the 7 million, so then we get 7 million back in cash, where does that show up?
So literally it's an in and out. So we'd repay and then the cash comes in to offset. So really at the end of the day, if we issue the debt, it has no impact on our cash flow.
Okay, so it feeds into the 23 million, but it doesn't change the number.
Right.
Okay, thank you for that. Commissioner Deagle-Gammon.
So I did have a question, but it got answered by Kathy, and it was around the balloon payment. So thank you.
Okay. Any further discussion? We'll call for the vote. All in favor of the motion on the floor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion is carried. Item 4.4, the auditor appointment.
If I can provide an update before motion.
Go ahead.
So we went to tender for audit services. Grant Thornton was awarded a 5-year contract, but each year we require the board to appoint them as auditors for the following year. So if the board had concerns about them continuing to be the auditor, they could not appoint them, and we'd go back out to market and look for another auditor. Right now, we are, from our perspective, we're satisfied with the work that Grant Thornton has been doing. We anticipate the board has been as well. We didn't have any concerns related to that. So we need a formal motion to appoint them as auditors for the upcoming year for both the Halifax Water financial statements and also the pension plan financial statements. So that's what we're looking for today.
I'll call for the motion.
Happy to put it on.
Commissioner
a question.
Kalnitzis.
I can do that. A motion that the Halifax Water Board appoint Grant Thornton LLP as auditors for the Halifax Regional Water Commission financial statements for the year ending March 31st, 2023, and the Halifax Regional Water Commission employees pension plan for the year ending December 31st, 2022.
Second.
I think Commissioner Kalnitzis already offered. Thank you. Everybody's
Madam
keen
Chair.
today. Thank you, everyone. Question from Commissioner Kalnitzis, or from Commissioner Zahav.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. So the decision to go forward with Grant Thornton, is that purely based on the competitive offer that they submitted as a part of the tender? There was also a quality component taken into account, because I appreciate that the Halifax Water had a really positive experience with Grant Thornton previously.
So the pricing is based on the tender that they submitted. The board has that option every year to decide. So there isn't a formal evaluation necessarily, but if the board had concerns about them being auditors, then the board has that option to not approve them as auditors, and we go out and look for additional auditors or different auditors.
Just to ensure we're understanding your question correctly, Commissioner Zaharov.
Yeah.
Was your question related to when we initially did the competitive process to select the auditors? Was it cost plus value, best value?
Yes. Yes.
Sorry.
Then yes, it was. The evaluation was done based on cost and quality, best value. I can't remember the exact allocation of points, but my recollection of when we did the award that in addition to being of good quality, this submission from Grant Thornton was also the lowest cost proposal we had received. Can you confirm that, Louis?
The process we used was 2 steps. The first one was to look at bids that were submitted to determine if the proponents were able to do the work. We had 2 bids submitted. We were satisfied that both could have done the work. They were both large firms, so we had no concerns from that perspective. And then the second part was once the 2 firms got through that first stage, it was all about price, and Grant Thornton, memory serves me right, was about half the price of the other firm.
Understand. Thanks. But yeah, Kathy, you basically answered my question. But yeah, thank you for clarification.
Any other questions on the motion on the floor? I'll call the vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion is carried. Item 5.1, capital approvals, Cogswell redevelopment infrastructure relocation cost sharing.
Okay,
And
that
Reed
is-
Campbell is going to speak to this.
Yep. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Kathy. So you've got a report before you. In summary, we're seeking capital approval for 19.5 million, which is comprised of 15.5 million in over the current fiscal year and the subsequent 3 fiscal years for water, wastewater, and stormwater infrastructure work related to the Cogswell District project, $1 million in staff time, and $3 million in contingencies for infrastructure work that's not anticipated at the moment. So I'll just go briefly through a few things. In essence, HRM's construction cost for the Cogswell District project is 95.6 million. So we would be contributing 15.5 to that, plus some overhead and HST charges. The total value of infrastructure work is approximately 33.5 million. We are responsible as a utility for, in broad terms, 2 types of infrastructure. One is infrastructure that we choose while all the construction's going on to either upgrade for asset renewal purposes or to increase capacity or resilience, and also infrastructure that needs to be relocated because the city is realigning the street network down there, and that's a requirement of bylaw S300 that applies to all utilities having infrastructure in the street right of way. So of the total cost of the infrastructure, HRM has proposed a 50-50 split on the water, wastewater, and stormwater work. We've been involved in the design and the review process. That is very consistent with what we've budgeted, and it's also very consistent with our approximation of what the value of that work is. Yeah, I mentioned the construction of the water and wastewater stormwater work. I just want to mention it's $1 million over 4 years for staff time included in the budget. Just to let you know, we have a full-time project engineer dedicated to the project for the 4-year period, as well as a full-time project inspector. The project inspector there is to work out conflicts with other utilities and with the contractor, and most of all to ensure our quality and that we get good records of where the infrastructure is ultimately located. But also it became necessary early on in the project that we have a full-time project engineer, that's Jen Richardson. And it's a complex site. There's a variety of things that just need to be worked out operationally, and in working out conflicts and interpretations with the design team, and also coordinating temporary shutdowns and temporary services with our operations department. So that's Jennifer's role. I'll also comment on the $3 million contingency. That is just under 20% of the infrastructure cost, and for a project where a tender has been awarded, that is a fairly significant contingency. We think it's conservative, but we also think it's appropriate. And we noted to date where, in less than a year, we've taken responsibility for 3 change orders so far, totaling close to $250,000. So the budget is based on $250,000 per year times 3 services for $3 million. And the type of things that have arisen that we have needed to take responsibility for. One was a very deep manhole that once we got digging around it, it determined it was an old design and construction that needed to be renewed. That was not anticipated in the design. There was an outfall that wasn't on any record drawings that was ours that needed to be abandoned. And there was a water main that we had not planned to renew, but once we got digging around it and saw the condition and where it was located, we chose to renew. So it's a complex site. A lot of the infrastructure has been there for close to 100 years. Some of the excavations are very deep, so all that leads to the higher than typical contingency. So if the Commission approves it, then our next step is to go to the Nova Scotia Utility Review Board and ask for approval of that expenditure. And there's the report lists. We've got funding identified in this year's capital budget, and the further funding will be included in the next 3 years' capital budgets. So if there's any questions, I'm happy to take them.
Thank you, Reid. Let's put the motion on the floor and then we can ask any questions.
I can do that.
Commissioner Cuddle?
I move. It is recommended that the Halifax Water Board approve the Cogswell District Capital Project at a total project cost of $19,500,000, which includes 1, execution of a cost-sharing agreement with the Halifax Regional Municipality, wherein $15,496,782 is the net Halifax Water share of the overall $95,663,634 construction costs. 2, Halifax Water staff time for supervision and management of the project in the amount of $1 million. 3, contingency allowance costs related to unknown conditions and conflicts that may arise during construction in the amount of $3 million. And 4, application to the Nova Scotia Utility and Review Board for project approval.
Thank you, Commissioner Cuddle. Do I have a seconder?
I'll second.
Commissioner Lovelace has offered to second that. Any questions? Commissioner Deagle-Gammon? Oh, you're on mute.
Am I unmuted now?
Excellent. Go ahead.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Reid. This was a really good report to work through and to understand, which I appreciated. Thank you. I am a little concerned, though, around the contingency. I know just under 20%, but for a project of this scope and over this timeline, considering what we're looking at in terms of labor shortages, supply chain issues, what we may or may not discover, has HRM, is their contingency in that same line around 20%? I'm just curious about that. And then the other question that I might have is there any risk that the UARB board may not approve the project? what will they be looking at in terms of the criteria that they'll use to say yes or no?
Yeah.
Reid, would you like to let Brad speak to the first one about the HRM contingency? I believe he is present in the meeting.
Sure.
Oh,
Yes, I was
hi,
just going
Brad.
to ask that.
Hello, coming to you live from the Eastern Shore as we prepare for the storm. So I apologize. I'm going to keep my camera off to make sure I keep connection. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Sounds good, Commissioner
Yes.
Angus. Go ahead.
Okay, super. So I think a key piece to this, to the response, Councillor, is this is a fixed price contract. So that's not to suggest there won't be problems or increased costs. HRM does have a small contingency previously approved by council. It is not in the area of 20%, but to point out the risk isn't so high on our end. The stuff that's buried is mainly utility type stuff, so their contingencies would reasonably be higher than ours. And without getting into it, we have a different contingency policy that we follow with HRM Council, and I'll just advise that we are adhering to that. You will have a report, I believe, the end of November as part of the semi-annual reporting that will bring you up to speed on all of that. So long story short, the vast majority of our contingency is covered in the fixed price contract. Halifax Water, and given my experience with Harbor Solutions, yeah, when we get digging, there's all kinds of stuff that isn't on the record drawings, and that doesn't matter which utility it is. And so we find things that make brilliant sense to deal with and replace at the time. This is one of the best advantages of a project of this nature. This is a very complex area to work. It is loaded with utilities. So all utilities are leveraging this moment where HRM has opened the ground and doing the work they need to do, so that we're not ripping this up all over again right after we finish construction. Hope that helps.
It does, thank you.
And Commissioner, to the second part, yeah, I suppose it's always a risk that the Utility and Review Board won't review something or won't approve something. I think that's unlikely. The infrastructure capacity work and asset renewal type work that we're doing is all included in our IRP. And I think we could make a good case that, as Brad just suggested, while the Cogswell redevelopment is going on, is the appropriate time to do that. The Utility and Review Board also accepts that, and in fact, the Public Utilities Act requires that we operate within the legislation of our host municipalities. So we are subject to bylaw S300. And, it's quite rare that they would not approve something for us in total. However, they can ask a lot of questions and perhaps put conditions on the approval. I think we expect that they will have questions around things like contingencies, our control of pricing, and just questions to make sure that the cost that being expended is to the benefit of Halifax Water's existing ratepayers.
Thank you.
If I could just further Reid's response, one of the ways we will mitigate risk around, the URB not approving what we request for is that we have already given the municipality notice that we will need their help answering the information request from the Nova Scotia Utility and Review Board, because it is the municipality's contract with Dexter Construction, and there may be questions asked that we just don't have a level of detail to be able to respond to. So our teams will work cooperatively to give the URB the best information possible to enable them to hopefully approve this expenditure request.
I just had a couple questions, Reid. You were very specific at the start about this being for water, stormwater, and wastewater, but I just needed to ask, so this does not include any of the district energy infrastructure.
That is correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
the attachments were great to the report as well. So I noticed the letter from from Halifax identifying the need to relocate based on bylaw S300 was dated March 2nd, 2022. I did go looking. I had assumed that there was a notification period required, but I didn't find one. So obviously good that Halifax Water had been budgeting for numerous years for this because we hadn't received formal notification prior to March 2nd.
Yeah, I think in practice, we deal with bylaw S300 on dozens of projects per year, so typically last year this board approved Bruce Street Pumping Station, which is a pumping station off Portland Street. HRM is planning to put a transit corridor, so the road needs to be wider. We needed to move our pumping station, but on a much more routine basis, we move fire hydrants and manholes to accommodate, general road alignment things. Typically, our staff work very closely with HRM's design and project staff, and it just gets incorporated into the design and the appropriate party pays. So in fact, this, so as we were meeting for about 4 years now planning this, we were aware that we would have to move certain infrastructure as opposed to bylaw S300. This is the first time we've received this type of order from the municipality. So, typically it doesn't get to an order stage. We just go and do the work as planned. And I think because of the volume or the cost involved and the complexity of the project, it was a formality for the municipality to issue that order to us so that we've got basis for moving the infrastructure.
Thank you for that context. And last question from me. It was a very lengthy letter from Halifax to Halifax Water, sort of detailing the discussions on the cost sharing. After the board approves this and then we go to the utility review board, is there a chance that Halifax can come back and ask for more, partly to the point that they've identified the 28 million in the letter?
Right.
Commissioner Anguish, would you like to speak to that?
Sure, thanks, Kathy. So the letter that we have sent, so I'll also just speak briefly to Reed's excellent answer on the engineer's order. Being the city engineer, it is rare. We work closely with our utilities. Giving an order, quite frankly, is rare and for the most part unnecessary. However, Cogswell has posed particular problems, again, given the complex area. And so we are treating all utilities the same in this case. So please don't read anything into this. There's nothing particular relationship-wise here, just rather a change in the way my office is operating to make sure that every utility is treated appropriately. Suffice to say, not all utilities or sub-utilities are as cooperative as Halifax Water. I'll leave it at that. Then speaking to, sorry, the question was, oh, right. So the 28 million. So all of our numbers to date are based on the fixed price contract. So what you have in the answer from HRM is all revolving the fixed price contract. As the Halifax Water team has made you aware, there may be contingencies here. We do not believe we're going to go through a $95 million fixed price contract and not have issues, especially as Councillor Daigle-Gammon pointed out, these are extraordinary times. There are likely to be some challenges, particularly on schedule, which will then trigger other pieces. All I will say is that I think the key thing is that if and when these points are encountered, they will be discussed with the utilities, and proportional shares will be done and communicated. So when I say proportional, everybody shares in these trench cuts, if you will. And so it's very important that Halifax Water does not bear a disproportionate amount to Nova Scotia Power, to Heritage Gas, or anyone else. So we are the arbiters of that and discuss openly. And I will say, you know, to Halifax Water's credit, they are very tough negotiators. They are very well informed. And so I would just humbly suggest the board is very well protected, and so are the ratepayers. This has not been an easy road with this project to date, and I'll leave it at that. Hopefully that gives you the comfort level and you understand my answer.
Thank you, Commissioner Anglish. That was good context on both bylaw S300 and on the letter from the city. Thank you for that. Any further questions? Okay, we have a motion on the floor. I'll call the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion is carried. Thank you to Halifax Water Management and to Brad Anglish and your team on getting that moved forward.
I'd also like to thank Jennifer Richardson and Kevin Gray and Wilson Wright, who I believe are 3 employees who are primarily engaged with the Cogswell redevelopment project and are working very hard on it.
Please pass along our thanks to them. They're doing a great job. Okay, so we're going to move item 9 and 10 to this point in the agenda. So item 9 was the capital project spending summary. Is that Reed?
Oh, maybe I'll leap in here and Reed can add. The URB items that we've got here, number 10 is an information report that we need to submit. Number 9 is a requirement under the URB accounting and reporting handbook. Annually, we have to bring to you a summary based on the completed fiscal year of our end results and seek approval for any items that have gone over $1 million essentially. And Reed, is there anything you want to highlight in here?
No, the report's there, but I can answer any questions.
Okay, let's put the motion on the floor and then we'll see if there's any questions.
I can put the motion on the floor again here.
Paddle, you're up.
Okie dokie. No big long numbers on this one. I move it is recommended the Halifax Water Board approve for filing with the Nova Scotia Utility and Review Board the capital project spending summary for the period of April 1st, 2021 to March 31st, 2022, and the capital project spending over $1 million summary for the period of April 1st, 2021 and March 31st, 2022.
I can second.
Commissioner Zaharoff seconds that. Any questions from the floor?
If I could just flag something I forgot to mention, it's a little unusual and I should have flagged it. When we were preparing this report, it did come to light that there was one project which we've described in the report. It's the stormwater project, culvert replacement, Cole Harbor Road, that had an approved project budget of $806,000. And we did wind up breaching the $1 million threshold on that. So we technically should have gone to the URB for approval of that earlier in the year. So we're getting our approval now in conjunction with this report based on the year-end results.
And do you anticipate any issue with that?
No, I don't think so. It's just part of the normal process. The process allows for it.
I just had one question, Reed. I noticed the lead service line replacement is over budget. Is that a good news story that we're replacing more, or just the increased costs we're seeing?
I think if I recollect from last year, it's a little bit of both. We did have opportunity and good response to our applications for people to get services renewed and good work with the municipality on integrated projects. But I do believe we also found that the cost of doing the public services was a little bit more than we anticipated.
Thank you, Reid. If there's no further questions, we'll call the vote. All in favor of the motion on the floor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion is carried. We're going to do item 10 next, the URB annual September report.
This one does not require a motion. We've got it here simply for information because we wanted our board to have it and also wanted to have it posted to our website for the public. So this is arising out of a number of matters. So there are a number of issues that through approval processes in the past, the URB has directed Halifax Water needs to file annual reports or updates. In the spring of 2021, we actually made an application to the URB to try to streamline and kind of balance our workload of when we're doing reporting. So we have a swath of reporting that we do June 30th, and we have another group of reports that we submit at September 30th, which helps balance our workload for staff. So this is our September reporting. And when you look at page 3 of the report, you can see the origin of the various matters that resulted in decisions that directed us to do reporting. And all of these matters are items, or the topics we report on are all items that are of significance to the Nova Scotia Utility and Review Board or the board's consultants, and really allow them to monitor our progress against direction they've given us through decisions on matters like the regional development charge or in past rate hearings or through the review of the integrated resource plan process. And we'd be pleased to answer any questions that you might have related to anything in the report. But my general observation is that we are demonstrating progress on everything that the URB has directed us to do.
Thank you for that, Kathy. Any questions from the floor on the report? No. Okay, we're going to go back to item 6, asset management policy.
And Reid Campbell will be speaking to this.
Thank you, Kathy. Thank you, Madam Chair. So we are seeking board approval of our asset management policy. There's a report in the package and a copy of the policy itself. Just to give a brief summary, we've formally been doing asset management as a practice for about 12 years. We've continually made progress. We considered doing a policy early on, but just due to other things like our integrated resource plan and building our sewer condition assessment and flow monitoring plans, we did not move that forward. And about 2 years ago, we decided to evaluate our asset management program. We've developed a roadmap to bring it to a fuller state of maturity over the next few years. And one of the early things on that roadmap is to come up with a corporate asset management policy. So what the policy does is it does commit Halifax Water to asset management as a practice and a methodology for maintaining and looking after our assets. It ensures that we do it in a cost-effective way. It's coordinated across the utility, and it's a statement to our ratepayers and our staff that we're going to follow sound asset management principles in making decisions like how we come up with our capital budget and how we make decisions about which assets to renew and when. and how we come up with the solutions for those things. So that's probably all I have to say at the moment, and I'll take any questions.
We could put the motion on the floor.
We can do that.
I'll just jump in to say that there is a typo in that the wording of that motion, and so whoever puts the motion on the floor, you can stop your sentence after 2022.
Commissioner Kolomicev can rise to that challenge.
Okay. I'll move that the Halifax Water Board approve the asset management policy number 9.2 as revised on June 9th, 2022.
I'll second.
Mr. Zaharov is seconder. Any questions on the asset management policy?
Yeah, I have a quick one.
Go ahead.
So Lorna sent ISO terms and definitions as a follow-up email. Reid, just a quick question. So the intention for the Halifax Water is also to be ISO certified as with implementation of this policy, or it's already in place? And if it is, sorry if I missed it.
No, it's not. It's not in place, and I don't have the document you're referring to right in front of me, Commissioner. But there is an intention to manage asset management under a formal management system structure. ISO has one, but there's others as well, and so we'll be evaluating that.
Okay, thanks.
Commissioner Deagle-Gammon?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was just opening it up there. I remember having one question on it, but the review being every 2 years, Reid, is that sort of a standard that it would be looked at every 2 years, or will it be every 2 years or as needed? Like if there's, I guess I'm just thinking about all of the projects that are on the books right now, and you're thinking about asset management, whether or not 2 years or 2 years and as needed. But
yeah, I don't know if 2 years is a standard or not. It doesn't seem inappropriate to me. I think like any policy, if there was a fundamental change that caused us to review it, we wouldn't wait the 2 years. But it speaks to asset management principles. And we're on a cycle of 5-year integrated resource plans and 5-year business planning. So I wouldn't anticipate that we would have to come to the board very often, if at all, in less than 2 years.
okay, thank you.
I don't see any further questions. We'll call for the vote on the motion on the floor. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those
Aye.
opposed? Oh, all those opposed? Any abstentions? The motion is carried. Item 7, the Duffet Street pump station failure.
Thanks. So Sushil is with me to speak to this. You have an information report in your package, and we did also report on this to the Enterprise Risk Management Committee, and also talked at the Environment, Health and Safety Committee a little bit about this. But this was a significant event that occurred for Halifax Water over the summer. And we wanted to get it on the public record, what happened and what our response to it was, and what we're doing to ensure or mitigate this from happening again. Also, the Nova Scotia Utility and Review Board has asked us to provide them with some information on the Duffet Pump Street failure and our response. So we will be submitting this report to the Nova Scotia Utility and Review Board after the board meeting. So the Duffet Street Pump Station was constructed in 1971. It got rebuilt in 1996. Got upgraded around 2008 as part of the Harbor Solutions project, and it transferred from HRM to Halifax Water as part of the 2007 wastewater stormwater services transfer from the municipality to Halifax Water. And this is a fairly large pump station that pumps a combination of wastewater and stormwater to our Halifax Water treatment facility. And The pump station was designed for 3 pumps. Normally there are 2 high capacity pumps operating, or installed and in place, so there is redundancy. But the flows are such that at any one point in time, 1 pump is sufficient to manage the flows at that station. So during July, unfortunately, I was on vacation, and bad things happen when the general manager goes on vacation. And that's just the luck and the way things happened. And we were fortunate that Sushil was acting general manager because he was the right man to handle the challenges of the Duffet Street pump station. So I'm going to turn it over to Sushil now that I've given you a bit of the historical background, and he can walk you through what happened, why it failed, and how we responded to it. Over to you, Sushil.
So I guess some of the dates and stuff are in the report, but around the first incident, as it says in the report, that we had a pump out for service, and then the second one, the one that was in the pump station, that pump had failed, and we did not have a backup to that pump station. That was very quickly resolved because the team did get together and we were actually able to get a pump that was at Dartmouth wastewater treatment facility that we could modify and make fit. Along with that, what we needed was a number of other mechanical components, pipe machining and what have you, and actually Halifax Water's internal team put all that together and worked, kind of 24/7 to put that together, and we had 1 pump shortly after in service. The biggest, I guess, hurdle there was we could not find cable for that pump locally or elsewhere, so the cable had to come from Montreal. And logistical companies, again, was the issue in terms of getting that cable. It's a specific cable, nobody carries it on shelf, and it was one thing after the other. That cable was delayed about a day or so getting here, but I guess we were able to put that in service very quickly. The first pump, again, these are electrical mechanical components, and there was a mechanical failure on the first pump. While we were once we put that pump in place, we were actually actively working on the second pump and arranging for cable for the second pump as well, which we found out that there's none in Canada. It had to come from Chicago.
Wow.
So we were preparing for the redundancy for the second pump, and we were able to and lo and behold, the second pump did fail. Number of issues, again, we're investigating that, and once we went to put that in place, rags and all that stuff that you saw, some of that in the media, the second pump was actually put in place a day later because of some of the system issues that we had. So further on, I guess once the second pump is in place, we have now we have 2 pumps in place and third on shelf, and they were actually all of those pumps from an inventory of the pumps that came out of Dartmouth treatment plant, which is, we had replaced Dartmouth treatment plant pumps because of a certification issue, and the contractor was responsible for that. And we had actually those pumps on shelf, and we got 3 of them recertified now for the Duffet Street pump station. So in terms of the future, I guess we are keeping a close eye on this pump station, and I think our risk is mitigated by 2 pumps in the station and the third one ready to go, and we will be purchasing, I think, a new pump just so that we're covered. Since this is a large station, then it covers a large area that it serves. Other than that, I think you see some of the pictures. It's a very complex station. It's not easy. The pumps cannot be maneuvered easily and what have you. And I think we're looking forward, again, in our asset management plans and whatnot, where we will be accelerating kind of a study on this pump station and see if we can replace the pump station or what the future options are. So with that, I'll take any questions. I won't put Brad on the spot on this one. He has too many details on this pump station.
Thank you, Sushil. Any questions for Sushil? That was a great report. One question I just had, I think it's in the annual report, but somewhere it's showing how you're starting to implement bidirectional strainers. And so the comment in the report was about how we put in the new pump, and then of course it quickly got plugged up. Any comment on sort of additional strainers or more strainers at the pump stations to avoid the ongoing clogging issue, even though we're doing a lot of public awareness on that?
Yeah, on that, it's a difficult station to modify, and there is a mechanism there to take the screenings out of that station. So we screen very coarsely at that station, and that would come as a part of the review of the study if there is anything that we can do, but it is very difficult to implement mechanical screening at that station.
And as you mentioned, I think both subcommittees did discuss this. The discussion at the enterprise risk management was about ongoing discussion, making sure that the frontline staff, as they work hard to keep the facilities running, they are communicating when we are running at risk. So in this case, when we had to run with only one pump instead of two, then part of the recommendation was that communication that's covered in the report.
Yes, and we did add the additional corrective action. If you look at the final page of the report, we added number 6, which is implement a risk escalation process for operations to raise appropriate concern relating to operational risks or compromise critical infrastructure.
Yes, I saw that. I thought that was great. Okay, thank you, Sushil. Commissioner Kent has to leave us. And item 8, update on institutional capacity.
Thank you. So this is here as an information item. You may recall that at the board workshop, business planning workshop last year, institutional capacity was a big topic. We had explained that it's a barrier to us achieving some of our strategic objectives, particularly around increasing our pace of delivery of capital projects in the integrated resource plan. That was also a central theme during our rate application and a topic that during the rate hearing, the board had asked us about institutional capacity and how we were going to demonstrate progress and what we were doing. One of the things we had volunteered is that we could start annually reporting on progress to build institutional capacity. The board has not issued the decision on the hearing yet or given us formal direction to do that, but we decided that it may make sense for us to start reporting on institutional capacity to our board and to the URB just on a voluntary basis this year to try to start establishing a baseline. So in the report, you will see our current statistics. And at March 31st, we had 547 full-time equivalent employees. Although we've been very busy, we've done 86 job postings so far year to date since April 1st, between April 1st and August 31st. 50 of those were due to internal movement though. And a number of new employees, net new employees to Halifax Water has been 16 added. However, our departures are outpacing our new hires. So we have had 22 departures during the period April 1st to August 31st. So our net increase is only 3 in that period. And for the first time ever, we are seeing that we're not keeping up and that the departures are greater than the hires. The other thing that is a little concerning for us is that the turnover rate is around 4%. Halifax Water's turnover rate historically has been around 1%. So usually when we have people leaving the organization, it's through either retirements or terminations for performance issues. It's very rare that we have employees leave Halifax Water because they're finding other employment that have more competitive compensation and benefits packages. We are beginning to see that now. So we know that we may have some market of competitiveness issues for certain types of positions. So we are focusing on attraction and retention and really what we need to do about that so we can try to turn the tide in terms of having the people coming into the organization you know, being in excess of what we know is going to occur in terms of departures. And Halifax Water has gone through a number of retirements over the last couple of years. We do see the number of retirements coming over the next 5 is much less than we've had, you know, a few years ago. So right now, 6.91% of our workforce can retire. This will rise to almost 10% if you look at who can retire over the next 5 years. And this is less than we were facing, say, 5 years ago in terms of retirement. So we're kind of coming down the retirement wave. And one of the things that we're looking at is for the key retirements, positions that are retiring, you know, do we have internal candidates ready to replace them? So we have talked about in the report some of the things we're doing to try to attract new employees, but also how we develop our existing employees so they're ready to move into positions. So this is just our first attempt at institutional capacity reporting. If there are any observations on other information you would like to have or the format of the report, please let us know and we will include that in future reporting. And we're also open to any feedback on how frequently you want to see this. We're envisioning submitting to the Nova Scotia Utility and Review Board once a year, but our board or one of our board committees may like to see this information more frequently. So that's totally up to the board.
Commissioner Cuddle?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Actually, I think this is great that you're bringing this forward and reporting on it voluntarily. It is something that I've had concerns about, particularly in the ability to maintain service delivery. And, you know, staffing shortages is something that's being discussed, you know, across all departments and, you know, across the country right now about how do we fill the vacancies. So, I mean, I think it is pretty concerning that our departure rate is greater than our incoming hires. So is there, I guess the question, you know, in the reporting and looking forward and projecting is understanding where risk might be in service delivery as it relates to staffing issues?
So right now, I would not say that we have operational risks to service delivery. I would say we have risks of delivery of new initiatives or capital projects. But capital projects ultimately may have service delivery impacts. If we're not delivering the integrated resource plan, particularly the asset renewal projects, then we may see more critical infrastructure failures. You know, it may impact service levels to customers. So that to answer your question, I don't have immediate concerns. I have longer term concerns. And Reed, I don't know if you have anything you want to add to that.
Sure. Yeah, I will just add that, of course, as part of the capital project delivery piece, we're looking to add about 8 engineering positions this year. We've got, we do have some critical projects that we need to assign some people for. I would say the response to our competition was, there was some strong candidates in it, but it was not as deep as we're typically used to. So we're just beginning the screening process of going through that. So we will see whether we're able to hire the 8 that we were hoping to, or whether we, consider that and try some other strategies. And I will say the other area that is challenging, because I think we're dealing with a broader market than we typically do, is IT support staff. And we've recently had a young IT person leave because they could get a considerable pay increase and work at home 100% of the time. So I think we'll find IT support continuing to be challenging, just because that's a much broader market than we're used to participating in.
All right, thank you.
Commissioner Zahara?
Yeah, well, it's I guess at my current workplace, we're experiencing similar issues with very competitive market. Definitely raises some risks to the IRP plan execution, and I think we're noticing that with Halifax Water, it's an ongoing issue. So fingers crossed, the HR situation will be improved on the Halifax Water side. Back to your question, Kathy, I guess I just wanted to suggest if we can, from my perspective, to have some sort of update every 6 months at least. That would be great. I hope the board will agree, or in whatever capacity that would be, an executive committee or just the board meetings. I honestly don't have any preferences. Just maybe one, and then apologies if it's too into the weeds question, but for the resources that depart in Halifax Water, are there any exit interviews being executed to understand the reason for them taking off?
Yes, we are doing exit interviews, and the feedback we're getting from exit interviews, we're having compensation raised as one issue. We're having some employees say they would like a new challenge. They'd like to move into manager positions and have better opportunities for development. We're getting feedback, particularly from water treatment plant operators, that shift work is non-desirable. So we do need to look at, shift work, and that would be an item we would need to negotiate changes to shift structure with our 2 union groups through collective bargaining. We do have feedback on work-life balance, and that because our organization is at capacity, some people feel that they're stretched thin and leaving to go to organizations where they feel that work-life balance might be better. And then there's a few that are indicating they're leaving for more meaningful work that fits with their longer-term education or skills.
Understood. Thank you, Kathy.
Commissioner Deagle-Gammon?
Thank you, Madam Chair. In the report, it mentions external support for HR. And I'm just wondering, is that done by an RFP, or do we sole source with a HR company?
We get, depending upon what we need done, if it's less than $50,000 or less, we would be going and getting 3 quotes from companies that are on the provincial standing offer. If it's something that we think is going to be a big ticket item that we want support on, then we would be going through a public procurement process.
Okay. I've just seen quite a few new kind of, and we listen to the reasons that people are sometimes leaving. There are some, I'm not going to say young-ish, but there are some new companies and have entered into the marketplace that are doing some very, very interesting, marketing and branding and communicating around, I'm thinking about things like placemaking 4G. They're young and energetic, and they're looking at that population that's matching work-life balance with the job, with the company, and with the values. So yeah, I guess I was just wondering why or how that was done, but yeah, thanks.
Commissioner Kolomitsa?
I was just wondering if you hire co-op students, particularly in the areas of computer science and engineering. And what comes to mind is, at least locally, computer science students are often available year-round. They would be available in a winter term, summer, and fall. And I think that it's actually one way to recruit students, because they may enjoy their time with you, come out of it with experience specific to your organization, and they may actually return once they've graduated.
That's an excellent question. We hire 40 to 60 co-op students and student work terms, student employment positions a year. Typically, we are getting work terms, co-op work terms that run from May to September. Occasionally, we may have work terms for co-ops that run throughout the year, but certainly exploring, year-round co-op programs where we can get student work terms through is an idea for some of helping us deal with some of our, more basic requirements, I guess you would say. But unfortunately, a lot of the positions we're most concerned about would be engineers, where there are junior engineer work terms, and water treatment plant operators, for example. But we don't really have the ability to have students in or work terms in doing water treatment plant operation, just because of the requirements for certification and experience. Reid, is there anything you want to add on the work term front from an engineering perspective?
No, not too much, Kathy, but that the commissioner's right, that is a significant attraction tool. Is a lot of people maybe have not contemplated Halifax Water and they like the work culture or the public service mission. But again, it's a tight market too, and it's keeping up with private sector salaries, even though people like what they have here, can be a challenge.
I just had one question. On the last page, it talks about the budget implications and moving one position forward. Is this an HR position? I wasn't really clear.
Bear with me as I get to that.
Sure, sorry.
Is that on the last page?
Yeah. Page 67 if you're in board books.
Yes, I know what this is. So this is a position that is a senior manager of strategic projects. It's part of the reorganization of engineering and technology services that Reid is doing. And we had flagged that position that it was going to be hired next year, but we are advancing it to this year. But it is a position that is primarily funded through the capital budget, so it really won't have much impact on the operating budget. But it wasn't in the list of the new hires that we showed the board at the workshop last year, or talked about when Reid talked about his org structure, or flagged in our business plan. So we wanted to just flag here that we did have one that is being advanced, really to support integrated resource plan delivery and capital budget delivery for some of our major strategic projects, like the biosolids processing facility and the water supply enhancement program.
Okay, thank you for that. I thought maybe it was a human resource role to deal with the workload. So I would support Commissioner Zaharov's comment of 6-month reporting and potentially put it on the enterprise risk subcommittee feeding into the board. There was obviously a lot of interest in it today and some great questions from the board. So I think we'd like to keep it top of mind. So thank you for bringing that forward. The last item we have is information report 3-I, the pension plan financial report as requested by Commissioner Zaharov.
Thanks, Madam Chair. We're flying through the agenda, and thanks so much. I had a question about this report. I'm on page 2 of the report, and I noted some significant shifts in the in the assets available. There is some fairly significant fluctuations that I thought that would be probably a good idea to brief the board about, and just to understand maybe a little bit better what causes that. Louis, would you be able maybe to provide a little bit more info about this one? I understand that it's an information point in this in time, and it's not a formal audited report, but there are some fairly significant fluctuations that I thought maybe would be a good information item for the board.
Yeah, absolutely. Halifax Water, the pension plans assets are managed by the municipality as part of their, or the HRM pension plan as part of their global strategies for assets. So they are managing based on, and the assets are being impacted by significant changes happening around the world. So they're invested not just in Canada, but globally. And this is just a condition that's happened in the market, and the impact on Halifax Water's assets is a significant decrease compared to what we would normally have expected. So it's a global issue that, as part of their management of the assets, it impacts.
Okay, so it's basically purely related to the market situation, which is known not to be in flux now.
Absolutely.
Are you aware of any discussions about strategy changes in investment strategy changes or something like that, or it's just being managed on as any other pension plan that is out there experiencing challenges today?
I'm not aware of any significant changes in the way they are managing their assets. I just asked Heather Britton, who is the author of the report. She's actually at the HRM pension plan meeting as we speak, so there may be information they're presenting up to date, and if the board would like, we can certainly pass that on as we receive it.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions from the floor on the information report? I believe that brings us to the end of the agenda. If I could have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Commissioner Deagle-Gammon.
Yay.
Thank you, everyone. What a full agenda, but we got through it. Everyone stay safe in the storm, and good luck to the Halifax Water staff as they put in the good work they always do to keep us in working order.
Thanks so much.